Well, St. Louis area parents are having candid conversations about race and racism, and some are having those conversations for the first time. But for others, the discussions happen all the time. Joining us now, Dr. Jenner Voss and Dr. Pam Washington. They are educators, community activists, and board members of a nonprofit called We Stories. Thank you both for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us.
Dr. Voss, let's start with you. Give me a brief history about We Stories. How did the organization come about and what is the mission?
Sure. As many others have mentioned tonight, Michael Brown's killing was definitely a change-making moment for many of us in St. Louis. And just after Michael Brown was killed, two local mothers were trying to navigate what it means to be parenting and thinking about having to engage our own children in these conversations. And so they are brilliant people who study racial equity academically as well, but started a group called We Stories that really uses children's literature to start and strengthen conversations about race and racism, typically in family homes where these conversations weren't previously happening. So as a white parent, I can say I wasn't well versed in having conversations about race and racism with my young children at developmentally appropriate levels. My friends of color have been having these conversations out of necessity forever. And so when white parents need to start engaging their children in these conversations so that we can shift mindsets and show up differently in the world, it has been very helpful to create a community that is sort of navigating that aspect of parenting altogether. And that's what We Stories does. Since the advent of our program, we have expanded. We now have a variety of initiatives that support families in starting their own conversations in their own homes, but also in thinking about what are the next steps, the next necessary steps of showing up differently in our schools, religious communities, workplaces, clubs, activities.
And Dr. Washington, how do you have these conversations, especially with children?
Yes. So Shirley, I think it's important to have very transparent, honest conversations and relate the racism that is occurring in our region as well as in our country to history, to the foundation of America, to the truths that have not been taught in schools, intentionally not taught. And so just having very vivid, explicit conversations with children. We Stories does an excellent job of using literature or books to allow parents to tell the story and to support them with explaining racism, and also looking at people of color and Black people as beautiful people, as gifted people, as rich, talented, resourceful people, which is oftentimes intentionally not included in education or people's upbringing.
And you both participate and protest in St. Louis, and you take your children to those protests. Tell me why. Dr. Voss, I want you to answer first, and then Dr. Washington, follow up, please.
Sure. So as Pam has said, we start these conversations, and conversations are critically important and wholly insufficient. So our kids need to also see us taking action. And the action sometimes looks like where we spend our money and where we don't, or what we advocate for from our school programs and educators and parent equity groups, and why we're on late night meetings and Zoom calls instead of putting them to bed. But sometimes one really tangible opportunity is to take them to the streets, to be in solidarity with communities of color, to demonstrate how we can use our power and our privilege to center the voices of those who do not share the same privilege and power. And one really tangible way of doing that has been to participate with my partner and our children in those marches. And just to be clear, it's not all rise up and rosy. My kids are hot and tired and want snacks and it's a long game, right? So the more we can show that this is just a part of our practice and a part of how we are community members and a part of how we are patriotic, then they're gonna be steeped in that instead of steeped in nervous parenting and awkward silence and avoidance.
Dr. Washington, do children really understand race and racism?
I can say that many children are able to understand the concept of race and racism if the conversations are had. We have the conversations in my household, my circle of friends, and many of my closest friends in my neighborhood. We have very explicit conversations about race. And so I do think that they are able to grasp it as well as anything else that they're able to learn or grasp. I think that it is a constitutional right to protest, and it's a responsibility, not just of myself, but also of all to stand up to injustice and to racism. I think that I look at it as a point of responsibility. And I want my children to also understand that it is their constitutional right to stand up for justice and equality. I also think it's important for children to see and participation of marches that their lives matter. Black Lives Matter is something that all children need to see, Black children and white children, because as we know, they have been devalued over the years. And I think it gets to a point where, as we are in 2020, enough is enough.
And so you both have been out protesting. Are you surprised by the number of people who have shown up during this time in this space and just how diverse the crowds are? Dr. Washington.
Yes and no. So, yes, in the sense that I think the killing of George Floyd, it shook people. It awoke them in a way that unfortunately they were not woke in prior years. After many, many killings, lynchings, hangings, there was something about seeing George Floyd killed for the amount of time that sat with people in a very uncomfortable way. So I think something has occurred in our country where people are also tired of being tired. And so they too are using their constitutional right to protest and say, enough is enough, Black lives do matter. And, you know, I think that it's also a way for people to show support. Everybody has a different way of showing their support and leaning into the discomfort. And I think some of the marches and rallies are a way in which they can show their support and in their own way.
Dr. Voss, real quickly, were you surprised?
You know, I don't think surprise is the right word, but to echo what we heard from the panel earlier, nothing like multiple global pandemics of COVID-19 and racism to really reveal inequities that have long been there. So I think there's something about the collective hurt or pain that we're feeling from sort of our social distancing and the impact on our schools and work systems to really tune us into harms that are also there and inequities that have long been there. So to me, there's something really powerful about the opportunity that can emerge to create new and better systems that will serve all of us more equitably out of sort of the pain and discomfort that we're feeling now.
Dr. Jenna Voss, Dr. Pam Washington, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And from the football field to the baseball diamond, athletes are standing up against racism. Straight ahead, see how they are using their platforms to fight for change.
How many times do we need to ask you to listen to your players?
What will it take
for one of us to be murdered by police brutality?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?